Assalamu alaikum, my respected elders, Sheikh Arij Anwar, our guest speaker of the day, brothers and sisters in Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, we are welcome to join us on this special topic, which is responsible finance, where we're going to be talking about investing, zakat, sadaqah, as well as liabilities. In this particular presentation, there will be an opportunity to learn from our scholar, Sheikh Arij Anwar. You also all will have the ability to get your questions and answers addressed either during the presentation. As we get those, we will try and answer those within the Zoom webinar. And then also we'll allow some time at the end for some Q&A as well. To get started, I will give you a little bit of overview about ShariaPortfolio. ShariaPortfolio is a wealth management firm that is located, the headquarters here in Lake Mary, Orlando, Florida area. We have been serving the Muslim community since 2003. And alhamdulillah, we are serving clients all over the United States. We have an affiliated company that is now also offering Sharia compliant investment solutions for Muslims in Canada as well. And for those who want exposure to, passive investment options, we do have our SP Funds affiliate that you can also learn about. So if you go to our main homepage, ShariaPortfolio.com, there's a lot of useful information, and you can get started there. I'm one of the financial advisors with the company. I help to, manage our U.S. business. And if there is any questions that I can help you with on a personal level, it would be an honor to be able to discuss with you one-on-one. We are also going to have, our team of advisors available to any of the clients. We have advisors located in other parts of the country. And if you happen to be in a certain location and would like someone local to you, we would be happy to arrange a face-to-face meeting. Of course, right now, given the current situation, we may not be able to do that, but we are welcoming a lot of phone calls and webinars to arrange the interactions. Lastly, I pray that everyone's Ramadan is going well. As you all know, that Ramadan, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has mentioned to us that it is a month in which the beginning is mercy, the middle is of forgiveness, and the end of the Ramadan is where we can pray for emancipation or protection from the hellfire. So these are the middle 10 nights that we are in. Please pray for all your brothers and sisters who are going through difficulties around the world, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them a quick and early recovery from any of their troubles, and then also to forgive all of our sins, inshallah. So with that, I will then allow our guest speaker, Sheikh Arij Anwar, to get started. I will introduce him briefly. Sheikh Arij holds a Bachelor's of Islamic Sciences from Al-Madinah University of Malaysia in Fiqh and Usul al-Fiqh. He studied the sciences of the Sharia under his teachers from Egypt for a decade and continues to do so every week. He has also completed degrees in computer science as well as education. Sheikh Arij has served as an imam and educator for the last decade. As an imam, he has led Taraweeh and Qiyam prayers at Milton Masjid, Islamic Community Center of Milton, Masjid Khalid bin Walid, Masjid IMO, and Islamic Center of Southwest Ontario. He has also been a regular khatib and lecturer across the Greater Toronto area and London. As an educator, Sheikh Arij has graduated 24 Huffaz of Quran at Al-Huda Institute. He has also published a full 6-page Arabic curriculum for Islamic schools at Bayna Institute and has taught over 500 students Arabic online through Bayna Institute and his Al-Kawthar Institute. He has traveled to over 10 cities internationally to give lectures and teach courses. And in 2016, he published a book of du'as of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So with that, we are immensely grateful for his presence today, and we hope to all learn from his knowledge, and inshallah, everyone can benefit today. So please welcome Sheikh Arij Anwar with your prayers, and inshallah we can get started. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه وله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you, Brother Ali Rida, for that introduction and for the opportunity to be here with you all. Alhamdulillah, it's really an awesome opportunity for all of us to get together in these best days of Ramadan to learn more about our faith. And we consider this, inshallah, to be an act of worship, just like any other act of worship. Learning about the practice of our faith, the understanding of our faith, is considered to be like any other ritual, action that we perform. So we ask Allah to write it down in our book of good deeds for all of us, that this is, worshiping Him, and we seek to gain His closeness by understanding the religion that He has chosen us with. And I'd like to introduce the topic by mentioning one of the first ayat of Quran. This is actually the third ayah of Surah number 2, Surah Baqarah, ayah number 3. I'm actually going to share my screen so you all can see my notes here, right? Can anybody just give me a yes or no if they can see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. This is something that Allah says very early in the Quran. He says, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Talking about the people who are muttaqeen, people who have taqwa, those who are mindful of God, are the following characteristics: who believe in the unseen, establish the prayer, and spend out of what we have provided for them. These are the three things that Allah highlights about the people who are mindful of Him, people of taqwa. Let's look at these in a little bit more depth, particularly the last part. Taqwa, which is the characteristic of mindfulness of God, is described as committing to what Allah has commanded and leaving what Allah has prohibited. That is one of the definitions of taqwa given by scholars like Al-Tabari and others. This idea of taqwa ties into our understanding of Islam at every level, but particularly financially. Part of our understanding of Islam is there are certain things that Allah has made permissible and certain things Allah has made impermissible. And mindfulness of Allah is to leave the things that is impermissible. Belief in the unseen. This is the tenets of our faith, the pillars of our iman, belief in Allah, the angels, the prophets, the scriptures, and the day of judgment. Establishing the prayer, yuqimuna as-salah, not just praying, right? Not just performing the prayer, but praying it correctly as the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, and meaningfully with our heart and our souls. And that's the challenge for us when it comes to the salah, to pray it correctly and meaningfully. I have some notes here of tafsir, so I couldn't translate all of them right away, but I'll read them to you and translate, which it says that, this is from Sheikh Sa'di's tafsir. He says that Allah doesn't say about the people who are praying that they're just praying. لأنه لا يكفي فيها مجرد إتيان أو مجرد الإتيان بصورتها الظاهرة. It's not enough to just for its outward appearance to be okay. What is actually required in establishing it is its outward appearance has to be correct, and its inward feeling has to be attained. So the outward appearance is that all the aspects of salah, the correct, you state of wudu, you're facing the qibla, you're in state of tahara, you're performing all the requirements of it. All of that is a check mark. And then iqamatuha batinan bi iqamati ruhiha, and then also meaningfully with heart and soul. And that means making sure that you're your mind is present, your heart is present as you're saying what you're saying, you're pondering over what you are saying. That is the idea of establishing the prayer. And the Quran continuously uses this expression because prayer is not just meant to be going through the motions, it's meant to be something a lot more. And then the last thing in the ayah is وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. They spend out of what we have provided to them. And this, as explained by the scholars of tafsir, that this spending in the ayah includes the following things. It includes obligatory financial liabilities. That would be family. It includes the obligatory charity, zakat. It includes philanthropy. That's what I've termed it as optional charity, sadaqah. All of these things are included in spending. And what we will do, inshallah, in the next section is we will talk about what is the what's the spending priority for a believer, right? What should be their priorities when it comes to spending for the sake of Allah? Is it more important for me to give sadaqah, or is it more important for me to give zakat? Is it more important for me to first, take care of my family, my binding obligations, and then give sadaqah, or the other way? Maybe if you attend a fundraiser right now, we're spared of fundraisers in the mosque. For better or for worse, but sometimes like the person who's asking you to donate to a very good cause maybe overlooks this point, that there's actually a priority of how we're supposed to spend in Islam, and this is determined by the revelation in the Quran, the scripture of the Quran and the Sunnah. So the spending includes that. Spending, as Sheikh Saadi says, in all forms is a way to earn closeness to Allah. Okay, whatever, whether we spend on our obligations, financial liabilities, or we spend zakat, or we spend on the poor, all of those is considered to be an act of worship, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's the liberating frame of mind or state of mind our religion gives us, that our whole life is a large act of worship. If our intention is sincere, and we are truly seeking to build our home in the next life, then the actions that everybody has to do, mundane actions, becomes worship for us, acts of closeness to Allah. And that's a beautiful state of mind. That's a very content state of mind. We ask Allah to give us that. He says that the religion only requires a portion of the wealth to be spent, right? Atabi min adalla ala tabi'id. Wa mimma razaqnahum. From what we have given them, they spend. The from there shows that this is a subset. So of all the wealth that a person would own, only a subset of it is mandated by Allah in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that we spend. The rest of it is we're free to do with it as we please, of course, within halal boundaries. So it's not that Islamically, the religion is out to get, to determine exactly how we spend all of our wealth. No, to the contrary, there's only a small amount of rules for a small amount of spending items, and the rest is yours to do as you choose to do it, as you choose to do with it. And then there is a general guideline, a general framework provided. Don't wrong others, don't rip people off, don't cheat, don't do things that are impermissible. And then as long as you're within that large, expansive framework, you can do as you want with your wealth. And that's an important thing to understand. Islam isn't there to just make everything haram, or just stipulate every single thing upon us, 2.5% here, 5% here, 10% here. No, it's just a small amount of rules. The rest you are free to do, inshallah, as you want. And the believer's state of mind, subhanallah, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُم. The ayah is very beautifully structured, that what we have provided, from that they spend. The what we have provided is before, what they spend is second, to give the idea that the believer's state of mind is that the wealth that we have is actually Allah's wealth. Allah has given it to us. Allah has given it to us directly or indirectly. In either case, He is the one who has chosen us to be the guardians of this wealth. but in reality, it's not my property. Okay, of course, like legally and in the world is my property, but the mindset is that it is Allah's. Just like inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, we are we are from Allah, or we belong to Allah, and to Him we will return. The same idea the believer has. So now when we are spending from our wealth, what our religion mandates us in the specific situations it mandates us, we are spending it happily. It's like, this was Allah's wealth, we're spending it in Allah's ways. And that is a beautiful mindset. That is a true believer's way of looking at their wealth. And this is how, as we'll see, the Sahaba looked at it. Allah mentions prayer and spending together frequently in the Quran. As you have noticed, if you have read the Quran or translation of the Quran, you will frequently see prayer and spending together. And that is because, this is actually a translation of what Sheikh Saadi says about this, and I like this comment a lot. He says, prayer represents sincerity towards the Creator. We are doing our best to connect to our Creator. Spending represents taking care of the creation. Thus, happiness in this world and the next is in sincerely trying to connect to our Lord, our Creator, and also taking care of the creation. And the wretchedness or a miserable life in this world and the next is the one who is not having either. They're not connecting to the Creator, and they're not taking care of the creation. And this is important. I'll come back to this when we talk about how Islam teaches us to view wealth and wealthy. Okay, what's the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah in this matter? This is an important point, that when the Quran admonishes people for having wealth or for hoarding wealth, it actually admonishes them in the context of these people hoarding it and not taking care of the creation of Allah around, not spending it as required, or acquiring it in impermissible manners and whatnot. So we will keep this note for later. Let's actually jump into the financial liabilities that a person has, and let's actually figure out the spending priority list of a believer. What is my spending priority, right? And the Quran actually gives us a if I was to use a fancy term, it gives us a spending policy. If you work in an organization, you have a spending policy, that especially if you work for a charity, right? Like you have to get an approval from the board of directors, and then they say, okay, you can go and do this, and then you go ahead and spend, right? So the Quran gives us that as well, and this is a general guideline. Firstly, it gives us a list of priorities, and here it is. Number one priority on that list is the obligatory financial liabilities. Okay, how do we get to that point? The Prophet said, for example, in a hadith in Sahih Muslim, dinarun anfaqtahu fi sabilillah, wa dinarun anfaqtahu fi raqaba, wa dinarun tasaddaqta bihi ala miskinin, wa dinarun anfaqtahu ala ahlika a'zamuha ajran alladhi anfaqtahu ala ahlik. He said that the best dinar, i.e., the best dollar, the best money that is spent of all the things that could be spent on, whether that is a voluntary supporting of Allah's cause, or for freeing somebody out of bondage, or for helping a poor person, or for feeding your family, or spending it on your family. The best of all of these categories of spending is the one that you spend on your family. So the idea is very clear. The priority number one is obligatory financial liabilities, which is family, and we'll come to who is financially responsible, and who are you financially responsible for. Okay, who is your financial liability? We'll talk about that inshallah today, because this is an important topic. The next on the list is obligatory charity, because that is an obligation. Allah says about zakat, فَرِيضَةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ, it is an obligation from Allah, a binding obligation from Allah. So that makes it a level above the optional philanthropy, sadaqah. Sadaqah is a beautiful thing. Sadaqah is the believer's lifestyle, right? We look at our Prophet ﷺ, we look at our Sahaba, and if you were to look a life in their day, a day in their life, if you were ever to imagine that by reading about them, you would see that it is filled with opportunities of helping those in need, filled with opportunities of giving voluntarily from their money and from their time. And that is like what we aspire to be, but it is still an optional thing. It is not obligatory, and it's lower on the priority list. And then the last one is saving and investing, and we'll talk about what does Islam teach us about saving and investing. Are we supposed to save? Like the Prophet famously did not save much. So is it contrary to the sunnah of the Prophet to save? Is it contrary to like trusting Allah and tawakkul to save money? We'll talk about all these things inshallah today as well, because this is important. We have to understand what does our religion teach us about spending priorities and about how we view wealth. And then everything else after that becomes very clear, because now we have the full picture in front of us. The Quran in Surah number 17, Ayah 29, Allah speaks about a very beautiful principle. He says, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَى عُنُقِكَ وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ فَتَقْعُدَ مَلُومًا مَحْسُورًا. Do not be miserly, okay, nor so open-handed that you suffer reproach and become destitute. What does this mean? It's actually a very beautiful image. يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً. Don't make your hand tied to your neck. That's the first image. The second image is وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ. Don't extend it all the way like forward like this. Don't be like here. What are the two images? The first image is that you are like tying your hand to your neck, i.e., you're extremely miserly. Everything you're just keeping to yourself, not giving anything, and extending your hand fully out like that. That is a image for somebody who is actually spending too much, spending out of perhaps their priority list. In both cases, the person who does that is doing something that is inappropriate, is doing something that isn't recommended in Islam. فَتَقْعُدَ مَلُومًا مَحْسُورًا. If you're too miserly, you are blameworthy. And even though you have kept wealth to yourself, you have a poverty mindset, because you're always fearing getting poor. That's why you're holding everything, clutching onto everything that you own. Whereas the one who is spending without regard, tawakkal ala Allah, it'll be fine. That spending without regard is irresponsible, and that irresponsibility is maluman. It is blameworthy, mahsuran, and that leads to a person becoming dependent on somebody else. Like you become dependent on another person because you were irresponsible. That's not what the Sharia teaches us. That is a very important. This ayah gives us that beautiful spending policy. Spend, right? But be moderate. Be, have that balanced way of spending. Don't be too miserly. Don't be too stingy. When it comes to your financial liabilities, spend what is required, go above and beyond, but don't, forget about the rest of these things, right? If you are given to philanthropy, you want to support people, don't forget about the ones above, right? Don't forget about saving. All these things, the balance has to be struck, and that's what this ayah and this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ teach us. So this is the idea that Islam teaches us. It is a balanced way of spending money. It is helping the poor, helping the needy, helping our families, supporting our families, saving up for a rainy day, or saving up for the future, while also stretching ourselves to the point where we are giving more to help the others, while not being irresponsible. It's a beautiful balance, and we always have to strive to strike that balance. Who is financially responsible? Who in Islam is liable? Is it like a little child? Is he liable financially? Answer, of course, is not. What age does a person become financially responsible for their actions? In Islam, that is the age of marriage. As the Quran says, وَابْتَلُوا الْيَتَامَى حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحَ. Keep a close check on orphans till they attain the age of marriage. The بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحَ, that's the nikah, is the idea of marriage, until they reach the age of marriage. The idea here being that at that point, this is a person who is rational, right? Like they have hopefully by that point, they are rational enough to make decisions. The scholars of fiqh actually discuss this, that, like what happens if a child isn't rational by the time they reach the age of marriage. And like Imam Ahmed, for example, says, don't give them their money, right? Because Allah says, وَابْتَلُوا الْيَتَامَى, keep a close check on them, right? And if ibtila is actually a test. So if they fail the test, even after reaching the age, then don't do that. But Imam Abu Hanifa is more like of the empowerment mindset. He's like, no, if you deprive this person of their wealth, they will never learn responsibility. So they will learn responsibility when you give them the money for them to be responsible with. So it's a beautiful discussion of how we view the idea of financially being responsible. The idea still remains, the principle remains, once the age of marriage has been reached. And the idea of orphans here is yatama, orphans, is that orphans' wealth is secured by their guardian. And then when the orphan is old enough, this is their inheritance. Now they get access to that money, i.e. now they are financially responsible, right? And that's what Allah says, when you find in anastum minhum rushdan, you find them to be mature of mind, fadfa'u ilayhim amwalahum, hand over their property to them. So that is the age of when a person becomes financially responsible, once they have reached the age of marriage. Now this is important for us, that I think for us who are raising our kids, or inshallah, if you don't have kids, you're planning on having kids, inshallah, or your family, this is an important thing. We have to train our children to the point where when they get to that age, the age of marriage, the age of puberty, and a little bit older than puberty, actually, because puberty a child could hit a little younger. But when they are, say, a grown adolescent young person, for example, they're maybe in grade 11, grade 12, there's a possibility they can get married in that time. Not always recommended, but there's a good chance, right? That if the right situation arises, that is something that could happen. By that time, we should build into our kids the ability to be financially responsible, and then give them some independence financially, because that is part of building that ability in them. And this is important. We cannot cripple their ability by babying them for too long. Neither can we be irresponsible by giving them too much when they're too immature. There's a beautiful balance that has to be struck here, and that is what this ayah is teaching us. And ibtila implies that it has to be like a testing procedure, like a trial and error type thing. So we should prepare our kids for that. Wallahu a'lam. Who are you financially responsible for? After this, I'll take like a couple of, I think there's a few questions, so we'll take them as soon as we're done that, inshallah, if that's okay. And then the topic of the Sahaba spending, right? Like I'll come to that, inshallah, in a little bit towards the end, inshallah. Who are you financially responsible for? So now we're going to break it down by a man and a woman, okay? And each gender has different responsibilities. And spoiler alert, men have a lot more financial responsibility. This is important to understand, okay? Because in Islam, the whole thing is a system. There's a system of how wealth is supposed to be, how wealth moves, okay? Inheritance. The boy, if for example, gets more than the girl, and the reason for that is the man is way more financially liable, right? Let me put it this way. Who are you financially liable for? Okay, the man is financially liable for way more people than the woman. This is the system, okay? This is how Allah has built it, and or has Allah has decreed it. So thus, for example, there are the other parts of the system are affected by it. It's not in a vacuum. So we understand everything holistically. Let's look at who is it that a person is financially liable for. A man in the Hanbali position, this is the most expansive position, the opinion of, or the position of Imam Ahmed. It's the heirs of the man and his wife, okay? Heirs include obviously kids, grandkids, parents, grandparents. It could include brother, sisters, uncles, aunts, the whole extended family. Imam Ahmad, mashallah, was a very he was old school in the way of support everybody in your family, mashallah. Very expansive position. Of course, the caveat is that if they are dependent. So of course, I mean, if you have a brother and the brother is living his own life and has his own, has his own house and everything, clearly you're not financially liable for him. But if what happens if the brother loses everything, becomes like severely ill and has nothing left, who takes care of that brother, right? In the case, the Hanbali position is, it's the other siblings, and particularly the other brothers of that brother, right, will take care of their brother, because he would be a heir, one of the inheritors Islamically, and thus the responsibility of Allah made the heirs, in that financial system, part of those who take your wealth when you die. So you should give them your wealth when they're alive. That's the principle that the Hanabila follow. Imam Shafi'i's position is, it's the parents, the children, and the wife. That's who you are financially liable for. Parents, of course, if the parents are in need. The idea is that parents, if they're independent, they're independent. But if they are to be taken care of financially, who does so? Well, it's the man, the son. That's his responsibility. Children, of course, the same thing, and the wife is included here. He's excluded the heirs, Imam Shafi. So you see, you're going from like a large, expansive amount of people, and it's shrinking. And then shrinking even more is the Maliki position, Imam Malik's position, which is nuanced, and I believe it is a good position. This is the one you could adopt, even though I have studied extensively, alhamdulillah, with my teachers, the Hanbali school. This is the position that Imam Malik proposes. I believe this is also Imam Abu Hanifa's position, which is male children are you're financially liable for them until they reach the age of marriage. Hatta idha balagun nikah, right? The same idea as the orphan. Now when they're like a adult young man, off you go. And the female children until they are married. That is for the kids. But once the female children are married off, masalama, now she's no longer your responsibility. And parents only if they are poor, and of course the wife. That is the Maliki position, and I think this is a good position. Who are you financially liable for? For the woman, matter is a little different. She is not responsible for spending on her husband at all. Brothers are like, no. But it's the truth, right? And her wealth is hers, like Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, the surah about women, and that talks about what women are, what are they liable for and what are they responsible for. Allah says, وَإِن طِبْنَا لَكُمْ عَنْ شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُ نَفْسًا فَكُلُوهُ هَنِيئًا مَرِيئًا. That do not, the ayah talks about giving them their saduqat, which is their mahar. But then that mahar represents their possession, it's their wealth. Now when it's in their wealth, or it's their possession, the possession of the women, you cannot take anything from their possession unless فَإِن طِبْنَا لَكُمْ, they give it to you happily. Okay? Brothers are like, what are you doing, man? But this is what the ayah says. The possession will be, or a woman's wealth is hers, and when she chooses to share happily, that is when the husband can take that and they can spend that. Of course, it's understood that in a house, husband, wife, they both take care of things together. But who is, now we're talking about like who is financially liable, like the questioning, who could be questioned by Allah on the Day of Judgment, right? That's what we're like concerned with. And the one who's not questioned is the wife, because her wealth is hers. She's not responsible for spending on her kids, except if the husband passes away. Of course, now then she becomes liable for her children. Or if the husband is poor, like this is the Hanafi position, that if the husband is like really poor and destitute, then the kids cannot just go to waste while the woman is wealthy. And of course, like this is, in real life, that never happens. The husband, wife, if they see like if one of them is in trouble financially, the other one usually steps in, alhamdulillah, and helps each other out. But here the question is, can she be questioned by Allah on the Day of Judgment? Why didn't you take care of your kids financially? And the answer is yes, if the husband is poor, and yes, if the husband has passed away. Okay. And she's responsible for supporting her parents if they are poor, shares the responsibility with the siblings equally. Okay, and this is the position of Imam Abu Hanifa as well, that hey, you know, if your parents are poor and even if you're married to somebody, you still have to take care of your parents. Imam Abu Hanifa says all siblings do it together. Okay, and others like you know, the Maliki position, if I believe correctly, is that no, it's like the boy does twice as much as the girl because he gets twice as much inheritance, right? So they all have their own views on it. The idea at the end of the day is that there is a lot less financial liability on the woman, a lot more on the man. She's still, you know, in good course, in good faith, as part of like a loving, wholesome family. You know, as we know, everybody supports, everybody works together to, you know, make it, you know. But is she can Allah question her? If a man doesn't spend on his kids, Allah can question him on the day of judgment. And if a man doesn't spend on his wife and kids, he loses the title of the Qawwam, the one who is responsible, the head of the household. You know, this is something that's grounds for divorce in many, across the board, in fact. So the idea here is not who spends, the idea is who could be questioned by Allah, right? And this is an important discussion to have.
So Sheikh Arij, thank you so much. At this point, I can take a short pause.
Yes.
And this way you can digest a couple of the questions that have come in. One of them is about you know, donating to masjids if it's permissible, and the other one is also about a Sahaba, you know, who was asked not to fear in giving, and you know, how to create that balance. So you can digest that. Meanwhile, I'll just step in for a second if anyone joined in a bit later. Again, this is a presentation on Zakat. My name is Ali Radawalji. I help, you know, manage our U.S. operation, and our firm is located in Florida. We're helping serve our clients who are looking to achieve their financial goals while conforming to their personal, you know, values and not compromising the Islamic principles. We offer services, you know, especially for those who are looking to save for retirement. You know, your 401k plans, your IRA accounts, college savings plans for your kids. Business accounts, endowment funds if they're masajid who are looking for help to build their endowment. Alhamdulillah, our firm is able to assist you, inshallah. And, you know, it is Ramadan, and this is usually the time where a lot of questions come up regarding Zakat calculations, which I believe is something that we'll be covering next, you know, as part of the discussion. For those who have tuned in today, keep in mind that this is going to be a two-part series discussion. Today's discussion is focused more on an overview level of regards to, you know, spending, financial liabilities, and you know, topics of that nature, and what is Zakat exactly. And then second presentation we'll have, inshallah, next week on Saturday. We're going to cover a little bit more of the calculations on some of the modern financial assets that we deal with, so that people are more aware of these things. Because this is a topic that comes up a lot more during Ramadan. So again, you know, we're happy to work with you. Any individual who wants to work with an advisor, we're happy to connect with you after this presentation. And we offer one-on-one consultations that are free and are happy to assist you regardless of where you are in your financial journey, inshallah. So with that, I'll let Sheikh Arij continue. We do want to allow some Q&A also at the end, but I'm sure he has a few more you know, pointers that he wishes to cover. I just wanted to step in a little bit and give him a break. I know it's Ramadan. We don't want our Sheikh to be talking continuously, inshallah.
I really appreciate that. Barakallah fiqh. Just a point on the notes, inshallah, for sure. I will share the, you know, as I've shared the copy with you, inshallah ta'ala. You're free to send it with the recording and whatnot. So this is, you know, anybody can have a copy of that, inshallah. Some questions. So the question about Bilal radiallahu anhu and spending, and I think even more pertinent is like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. He was the man who brought everything in his house from his household and gave it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet did not reprimand him. Of course, Abu Bakr Siddiq is, the best of the Sahaba. How do we understand that in light of what we've discussed in the ayah of Quran, Surah 17, ayah 29? Well, the understanding is that the Sahaba, when they were spending, there's two explanations. Explanation number one, or explanation is two parts. Part one is they knew that they have a source, like their income is steady, there is income coming in. Okay, so Abu Bakr Siddiq, when he brings everything for the Battle of Tabuk, the Sahaba say he knows that he has like a trade caravan coming in shortly, and his funds will be replenished. Okay, his trust in Allah is that he knows Allah will make sure his trade caravan will come through, and he has no doubt about it. Okay, he has that trust from as a skilled businessman, and also his trust in Allah as the provider, right? And that allows him to go above and beyond. And keep on, Abu Bakr Siddiq is like the best of this ummah, right? So he doing this was to set the bar for where the bar is, right, at the very highest, not what is expected normally. Okay, that's part one. Part two of the answer is, well, Abu Bakr Siddiq and all the Sahaba who donated never put their families at risk. Right? When the Prophet asked him, what did you leave for your family? He said, I left Allah and His Messenger. The implication is that they're fine. They're taken care of. Don't worry about them, Rasulullah. Right? So this is a very important idea. Also, keep in mind, Abu Bakr Siddiq didn't, like, his kids were all married. It was him and his wife, really. So he, radiallahu anhu, he was not being irresponsible when he was going above and beyond. That is the idea. And the Sahaba did go above and beyond. The Sahaba did live, many of them chose to live a life of extreme, qillah, like keeping less material items, because that's what they chose. They wanted to set that example, like Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. But that's not like the requirement Islamically. Okay, so we have to keep in mind, like, what does Allah require from us? What does He mandate? Versus what does the exceptional version of our faith represent? And the exceptional version, as we'll see, I actually have examples of Sahaba who died extremely wealthy. Okay, in fact, I'll skip to that part just for a sec to show you that the idea of notable wealthy companions. Zubair ibn Awam, one of the 10 promised paradise, his inheritance, as mentioned by al-Dhahabi, was that اقتسم مال الزبير على 40,000. Okay, Allahu Akbar. When Zubair ibn Awam passed away, his inheritance was 40,000, and in another narration is 50,000. 40 to 50 million. Now, 40 to 50 million here is referring to dirhams, which is, if you were to take it as silver and its value in grams, it comes out to this large number of grams, and this comes out to this large number in inheritance, $59 million by today's 50 cents per gram calculation. And this is actually being estimated because dirham was often a combo of silver and other materials, or gold, and it's a 40 to 50 million could include a bunch of gold and silver. So if you were to include a bunch of gold in it, the amount goes way up. Okay, so this is what he left when he died, radiallahu anhu. And this is one of the 10 promised paradise, the son-in-law of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, right? This is Zubair, right? He married the daughter of Abu Bakr, Asma. And you see how wealthy he was. So it's not like they were not acquiring wealth, right? They were spending and acquiring wealth. They were spending and acquiring wealth, and that was their lifestyle. Abdurrahman ibn Auf had famously one incident that after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, there were 700 camels that came to Medina, and the city was like rumbling, and they're like, what happened here? Who's invading Medina? And it turned out to be Abdurrahman ibn Auf's his business trading expedition had just returned. And that is how much profit they made, that it was like rumbling through the city of Medina. And Uthman ibn Affan, for example, he purchased the well of Ruma for 35,000 dirhams, about 50K US dollars, when most Muslims had nothing, when they just came from Mecca to Medina and were literally homeless, living in other people's homes. Uthman ibn Affan at that point, right? Not later when he had acquired more wealth. At that point, where people have almost nothing, purchased a well straight up so the Muslims could have water to drink, to show how much, mashallah, wealth he had and how generous they were. So the idea is the Sahaba set the benchmark for us. They are the ones to aspire to be like, but that isn't the requirement Islamically. Wallahu alam. I hope that question is there, or it's a long answer, but I hope the answer makes sense, inshallah.
Thank you, Shaykhana, for that. Perhaps we can continue with the rest of this, and then just kind of at the end allow for a couple more minutes, because I know we are getting closer to the hour, and I wanted you to get the ability to cover the next pointers that you would like.
Absolutely, let's do it, inshallah. So let's talk about our financial, like the spending priorities. Obligatory financial liabilities, we spoke about that, alhamdulillah. Let's talk about obligatory charity, zakat, and this is going to be an overview. The more detailed version is coming, inshallah, on Saturday. So please don't fret if I go through this fast, because we will go through it in more detail on Saturday, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Sounds good? Inshallah? Okay, let us proceed. Zakat is an obligatory charity. Allah says about it in the Quran that those people that if we establish them in the land, they say their prayers, they pay zakat, they enjoin good and forbid evil. SubhanAllah, this is an institution that Allah has has mandated, not just a personal charity. That was the mindset of zakat, and it was meant to eradicate poverty. That's what zakat was supposed to do. And we have instances in our history where Umar radiallahu anhu's time, there was extreme famine, like there was a lot of difficulty. But also there were years after that where there was so much wealth that nobody was there to be able to take, nobody was a valid recipient of zakat. And it happened again in the Umayyad times when Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the grandson of Umar, or great-grandson of Umar, also had a similar circumstance. Zakat was the means to eradicate poverty. And when Imam Shafi'i speaks about how much zakat should be given to a poor person, he says, yu'ta kafayata umrihi. He's given enough so that after that he doesn't need to ask for zakat anymore. Truly, it was a way to rid society of poverty and a way to keep the wealth disparity from becoming so large. There's a few who own so much and so many who own nothing. The zakat was the way divinely sanctioned that kept things in check, that kept the playing field level. Words that we should be familiar with. Zakat is the obligation. It's a pillar of Islam. Sadaqah is a word that is for any type of charity, an optional charity, philanthropy or optional philanthropy, that is sadaqah. Nisab is the minimum amount of money you must have before you pay zakat. Okay, and that is the ancient measure is in gold and silver, dirham and dinar, and its modern day equivalent is calculated basically by taking the lower of these two amounts. All right, we'll come to the nisab. The nisab is roughly I think 400 Canadian dollars. That would be like 200 US dollars. Canadian dollar is very weak, very miskeen right now. So we'll get the exact figure for you, inshallah, specifically on Saturday. So this is the some of the words that we will be using. I hope that, inshallah, this is clear. Zakat is defined linguistically as growth and flourishing. And subhanAllah, the idea is that when you spend zakat, your money will grow. You spend zakat, your barakah will flourish. Linguistically, that's what it means. Its technical definition is it's an obligatory charity that is the right of the poor, the needy, and the other recipients. The mindset is that zakat is haqqun wajib. It becomes the right of the recipient. No longer is it the right of the owner, subhanAllah. And that is a very, very powerful, mindset of how to look at it. It is due only upon specific types of wealth. Important, only upon specific types of wealth, and that specific types of wealth, or those specific types of wealth, have been retained for 1 lunar year, and it is only due upon the well-to-do, i.e. those who meet the nisab value. All right, so that's the important qualifiers. I'll get to that. I'll list them out in a little bit more detail here. Okay, what is it due on? Here are the categories of wealth that zakat is due on. All right, category number 1, cattle and livestock, camels, cows, sheep, and goat. Don't worry about it. I think we can skip this part easily, but it generally goes per category of animal. All right, crop yield, a farmer. How does a farmer calculate the zakat? Well, it depends on how their crops are irrigated, and based on that, they pay their zakat when they harvest their crop. Okay. Now, the thing that matters to us is cash and cash-like assets and business commodities. Cash and cash-like assets, it is 2.5% of the total amount. All right. And for business commodities, products sold to make money, it is the wholesale value of the commodity. I'll expand on this more on the Saturday webinar, but I'll give you an example. Assume I sell water bottles for a living, okay? Which is actually like a bad thing because you're ruining the environment. But assume for a minute I do, okay? Like disposable bottles of water. And I sell a bottle of water at retail for $1, okay? And I have a lot of water in my warehouse. When I calculate my zakat on my inventory that's sitting with me for a year, the way I would calculate it is not on the retail price, $1. I will calculate it on the wholesale price. So maybe that my wholesale price is maybe 10 cents, right? So I will take that 10 cents, calculate how much is my inventory that I've had for a lunar year, and then on that amount, I would pay zakat. A simplified example of how business commodities are to be understood, all right? This is the categories of wealth. Now, in any of these categories, for zakat to be due, the following conditions must be met. The wealth has to be accessible, istiqraruhu. It has to be accessible. And accessibility, how much is something accessible, like to what extent, that is like where some of the difference of opinions come, okay? So for example, what's excluded is things like pensions. You don't have access to your pension until you reach that age. So all that money that the government is putting away for you, government, you guys have government pension too, right, brother Ali Rada?
Yes, yeah, we have pensions.
I was once talking to my cousin in America, and I was like, oh, you guys can go on paternity leave. And he's like, we don't have paternity leave. I'm like, what? So I have to just verify something here.
Yes.
So pensions, you don't have access to that at all. UTMA, this is educational, an educational fund that a parent creates for their child. This is excluded because you don't have access to this money, and the child will get access to it when they go to a post-secondary institution. Is that correct, Brother Rida?
Yeah, so UTMA, we can again discuss more in depth. There's an article that we had written on this thing, but to give you a quick 2 cents on it, it's liquid in the sense the account can be accessible. Even if the child is not at the age of college, you can use it as long as it's for the child. So, so again, you're mentioning the exclusion goes on accounts that you do not have access to until the future, correct?
That's correct, absolutely.
Okay, so UTMA may not fall into that because technically the funds are accessible sooner, although the purpose is for a later date. In most cases, the parents want it for college, but it's technically accessible. You're not going to be penalized if you take the funds out, when the child is age 5, for example. I
see. Okay, let me put a asterisk next to it, and then what we'll do is I will revisit the specific products on Saturday. How is that, inshallah? Right? So the exclusion here is money you don't have access to, like pensions, like locked-in retirement accounts, where the money is not accessible until after a certain age, or until you have, for example, like it's at the immediate moment, you don't have that money available to you. If I wanted to go and liquidate that and then get it in my account, I can't do it. That is the idea. That kind of wealth is excluded. Okay. Included, again, we'll talk about this more in detail, inshallah ta'ala, in the on the Saturday webinar. But loans receivable are included. Now, this is an interesting point. You could make the argument, my loan that I have given to somebody, I've loaned somebody money, right? Why is it that I'm paying zakat on it? And there are scholars who say you don't have to pay zakat on it. But in reality, this is loans that you have given to somebody that you are confident they will return back to you, right? So maybe I loan some money to my friend and I'm like, yeah, this is a stand-up guy. He's going to give this money back to me. So I'll give zakat on that money that I have loaned him, okay? Until he returns it back to me. If I've given money to, say, like, I don't know, my, cousin, and he's like, oh, please, Arjun, help me out. I'm like, okay, fine, here you go. I have no hope of that money ever being returned because I know he's going to blow it, right? So I won't then pay zakat on that money because I know that money is like just sadaqah. I just gave it as like, it's his now. Don't worry about it. It's only for loans that you are confident you will get back. That is the ones you will pay zakat on. And the flip side of it is borrowed money, loans payable, you don't pay zakat on it because that's someone else's money that's in your possession temporarily, right? So see how it works. The lender will pay zakat. The one who has borrowed does not pay zakat until they have returned their money back. There's a question quite quickly on online that is about like a teenager who's worked part-time, has money in his bank account, saving for college. So we'll come to that idea of like saving for something, right? But the zakat is due on wealth that is accessible, that's retained for 1 lunar year, right? And greater than the nisab, irrespective of what, like you're saving it for. Okay. Now, what if I'm saving for something? We'll come to that point. How do you save Islamically? We'll come to that, right? Quickly. But as long as it's retained for a lunar year, it's accessible, it's in a checkings account, and is greater than the nisab value, zakat's due on it. All right. That's an important thing to keep in mind when it comes to zakat. Zakat is not due on items that is the following: residential property, no zakat on that. Value. So if you live in a house, you don't pay zakat on the value of your house. Okay, not at all. By consensus of scholars. Value of investment properties. We'll talk a lot about investment properties on Saturday, because investment properties are like the thing where a lot of the investment products can be analogously compared to. Okay, investment property, you don't. If I have a house that I have put on rent, I don't pay the zakat on the value of the house. The rent that I'm collecting, I will add that to my cash, and then if my cash at the end of the year is retained for the lunar year and greater than the nisab, I will pay zakat on that. Okay. Borrowed money, as I explained, loans payable, you don't pay zakat on that. Jewelry worn regularly. This is the opinion of Imam Malik, Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad. Jewelry worn regularly, there's no zakat on it. Regularly could be you bust it out for like a Eid party or for some like weddings, as long as you wear it, okay? At a frequent enough frequency, that is no problem. That is not there's no zakat due on it, because they consider it to be like clothing, okay? Whereas Imam Abu Hanifa opines that no, you have to pay zakat on the gold and silver, irrespective of what its usage is. I would argue that heirlooms should be included. So for example, my mom has some jewelry that she got from her mom, and she gave to my wife, and my wife will give to my kids, and no one has ever worn that jewelry. That is just passed from person to person, and that is an heirloom, okay? So that kind of stuff, I would say it should be included because it is not worn regularly and it has value. Gold and silver, obviously for investment, should be included, and precious metals, are exempted. And what you do is you take the dollar value for what is gold and silver, or the heirlooms, like what is the dollar equivalent for it, and you add that to your cash and cash-like assets. Right? And then you calculate that. We'll do the calculation of zakat on Saturday in a bit more detail. I'm just going through over an overview of what this is. Any other valuables not listed above, no zakat. Cars, horses, okay, no zakat on that. You're okay. Only these 4 categories of wealth is where zakat is due. And for example, we're adding rental income into cash. We're gonna add investment products into cash-like assets. We're gonna add jewelry, gold and silver into cash-like assets. But anything else, we're gonna exclude that because zakat is not due on those items. Okay, who gives it? Every Muslim who has accessible wealth, retained for a year, and has reached nisab, greater than the nisab. Those are the 3 requirements. And this, by the way, includes, according to the majority, a young person too. It doesn't have to be only like an older adult. It could be a young person, as long as they have money. Now, a child who is under like the guardianship of their parents doesn't count, because the child's money is like the parents' money. Like my kids say, I have $200 in ED. I'm like, no, it's not. It's all ours right now. But a orphan, for example, right, would be different, because an orphan, their wealth is a lot, and the orphan's wealth is taken care of by a guardian. So according to the majority, even the orphan's wealth, there is zakat due on it, despite the fact the orphan is small. The guardian pays zakat. And we'll come to the idea of orphan's wealth. The Prophet actually says that the guardian should invest that wealth hatta ta'kulahu sadaqa, lest zakat consumes it. So the guardian should invest the inheritance so that it grows, and the growth pays for the zakat, not the principal. So when the orphan grows up, they can actually access their wealth and have it wholly. Who receives it? There is 8 categories of zakat that Allah mentions in Surah number 9, ayah 60. In those categories, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the people. Maybe actually can just open this link here. The zakat is due for or is given to the poor, number 1, the destitute, number 2, amilina alayha, those who collect zakat, number 4, those whose hearts are close to Islam. The Prophet would give zakat to those people, and they would be firmer in their faith, in freeing a person from bondage or slavery or prison, the ones who are in debt, number 6, in the way of Allah, number 7, and wabn sabil, the wayfarer, somebody who has wealth but has no way to access their wealth because they're not in their country. Fi sabilillah, number 7 category is interesting, because this is for the voluntary warriors for the Muslim army. Okay, not like employed soldiers, voluntary warriors. And that's what historically this was considered to be. And now the idea is that these people are defending Islam, so that's why you give them from zakat. And based on that, many scholars, like the body of scholars, Amja and others, have opined that this is clearly something that none of us can do, but a lot of us can defend Islam virtually, through our words, through our videos, through our efforts, and thus the defender of Islam in any other way should be counted as fi sabilillah. And that's where a lot of the like organizations and mosques will say, well, where's zakat eligible? That's where they're coming from. Okay, that they are saying that they are defending Islam in a in a way, or they're advancing the cause of Islam in a way, and thus they should be included in fi sabilillah. Whether you agree with that or not, that's your prerogative, but I wanted to explain to you how they get to it. Okay, and most definitely, in my opinion, organizations that are defending Islam and serving the Muslims and their causes should be included in this. But I would err on the side of caution and say, like, just building another, like building maintenance or operations of a masjid or a school shouldn't be from zakat necessarily. Okay, because fi sabilillah, it was very specifically about voluntary people who were helping the cause of Islam. So anything that kind of is similar in that nature should be included. The 2 most important ones is the broke and the destitute. Okay? Broke, man's got no money, or 50% of what they need to survive. That is the faqir. Miskeen is the destitute. 50% to 100%. This is according to the Hanbali school. This is how they define it, Hanbali and the Shafi'is. And they call the miskeen destitute because a miskeen in the Quran, for example, could have a job. أَمَّا السَّفِينَةُ فَكَانَتْ لِمَسَاكِينَ. The story of Musa and Khidr, the ship that Khidr broke, Khidr says that ship belonged to Masakin. So they weren't like they had a ship, they had jobs, but they were still called Masakin because they're maybe just making their ends meet. They're living like paycheck to paycheck, or like fishing trip to fishing trip, but they don't have enough to live with some comfort. So those two are at the top of the list of zakat, and those two should be our focus of when we give zakat, particularly those who are like single mothers, those who are converts, those who are overlooked, and those particularly who have too much dignity to ask for help. That's where like the real ajr is, in my opinion. يَحْسَبُهُمُ الْجَاهِلُ أَغْنِيَاءَ مِنَ التَّعَفُّفِ. The Quran describes these Sahaba who had the dignity of not asking for support financially. And they had so much dignity that despite being like broke or really, really poor, the uninitiated would consider them to be wealthy just by the way they would carry themselves, just by the way they wouldn't constantly seek financial aid. And that's how a Muslim should be. They should carry themselves with dignity and honor. And that person who is needy while having dignity, that's your best, in my opinion, case recipient of zakat. That is a person you support, and their dua is going to be like is going to be like inshallah a source of mercy and blessing, because their dua will be so heartfelt. What it's not given to, they mentioned like the family of the Prophet ﷺ, the Hashimis and the Abdul Muttalib's family, they're not given to. This is like a classical thing. Also, it's not given to like faqir tahta ghani, like a rich father under, like, in the house of a rich father is a poor son. So the poor son by himself is like a zakat eligible, but he's not spending anything. He's not liable because he's living with his dad. That is a person that is not given to. Not vertically. And remember, we talked about the parents and grandparents and kids and grandkids. They are not zakat eligible because they are your dependents. You are financially liable for them, and likewise the wife. Wife given to husband is a difference of opinion. Imam Abu Hanifa does not want accept that. Others do, and I would stay away from that. Wallahu alam. Horizontally is okay. Giving to brothers, giving to cousins, giving to uncles and aunts, that's actually beautiful, because the Prophet said giving to them is a way of keeping family ties. And has to be a Muslim, or if a Muslim NGO is dispersing it, the fatwa is they should try to do it where most of the people are Muslims, because they're not allowed to legally differentiate between or discriminate. All right.
Sheikh Arif, so what I'm suggesting, inshallah, is maybe in the next session, we can do a quick intro on some of these and finish up these few pointers.
Yes.
And maybe at this time, given that we are a few minutes past the hour, cover any couple more questions that we can address. And again, for those who would like to learn more about this, there is an opportunity next Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Inshallah, there's another session we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit more hands-on and do some calculations as well. So you guys who are attending and would like to know how to calculate the zakat will be, inshallah, empowered on how to do so. Of course, if for those in between now and then, or anytime after this presentation, who wish to speak with an advisor on your own personal situation, we're happy to talk to you one-on-one. But yeah, let's go ahead and cover the couple of questions that are pending here, and then hopefully we can call this a day and inshallah resume next Saturday for the rest of the discussion.
Sounds good, inshallah. No problem. Jazakallah khair. A couple of questions here. I'll just read them if that's okay with our leader, right?
Yeah, go ahead. One is, I think, on if we expect a large amount of zakat deductible in 1 year, can we set aside the amount and disperse it over a course of 2 years instead of trying to do it all at once? What is your opinion, or what's the opinion of scholars on that particular matter?
Well, that's a great question. So the money that for zakat, you can pay it all in one shot, or you can pay it in installments. as like a stipend to the recipient. However, it should be paid within the lunar year. Okay, it shouldn't carry over because see, zakat, once it's due, becomes the right of the one who's the recipient, the right of the poor. So holding it back unnecessarily uh, isn't wise. Also, giving it all at one shot is maybe not wise, right? Especially if someone hasn't had money. So stipends are acceptable, but stipends for like dragging them on for a while is not acceptable. Generally, within the year, that should be paid. Wallahu a'lam.
All right, thank you so much. The next question we have is, um, what does 0 to 50% mean, or 50 to 100% mean? So this was covered here. Yeah.
Yeah. So quickly, 0 to 50% means the faqir, the broke, is the one who has either nothing, like literally nothing, or up to 50% of what they need to survive in a day. Okay? The destitute, the miskeen, is the one who has 50% to 100% of their needs daily covered from their money, from whatever they earn, whatever they have. Those are the two, like faqir and miskeen are like similar sounding words or similar in meaning. So the differentiation based on the ayah and other like evidences is made in this way.
Jazakallah. Hopefully that helps answer that question.
Hmm.
Can my zakat go to my sister? Does she have to be a Muslim?
Zakat can definitely go to a sister. However, zakat recipient has to be Muslim. This is one of the things about zakat that is specific. Zakat, the recipient has to be Muslim because the Prophet said, تُؤْخَذُ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ فَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ. The zakat is taken from their rich, i.e. the rich of the Muslims, and given to their poor, i.e. the poor of the Muslims. And that mandates it to be as such. You can most definitely give your non-Muslim sister, sadaqah, right? The philanthropy, the optional charity. But zakat has to be for Muslims only. Wallahu a'lam.
All right, thank you so much for that. Regarding forgetting the day on which I retain my wealth, if they don't remember the day, is it Ramadan first or was it 15th of Shaban? How do you proceed if you don't remember your lunar calculation day?
Excellent question. I think that happens to a lot of us. Generally, what I would do is you try to make it a day that you can't forget. So like first of Ramadan, or 15th of Sha'ban, or day of Arafah, or something that's like an important day in our calendar. So that way it becomes like always, or 27th day of Ramadan. That way you just won't forget about it. That will be the way to go about it. But if you've forgotten, you can just choose like the closest, like say like if it's you're not sure if it's Sha'ban or Ramadan, it's already Ramadan, just start from Ramadan 1, right? And then Ramadan to Ramadan, do your calculations, inshallah.
No, thank you. The question again on that 50 to 100%, if someone's needs are met because they're 100%, then would they still be eligible? I imagine that range you're trying to refer to someone who is up to close to 100, maybe not 100%.
Yeah. So the idea is this is a person who's living like hand to mouth, right? So that is a miskeen. They're living hand to mouth. They may have a job, but at the end they have nothing left. After they have, spent whatever they have earned, they've got nothing left. Essentially, they're just covering their needs. So this is a person to give zakat to, because what happens if something bad happens, and what happens, like what of their other needs that are maybe being neglected currently, right? So that's why they're included in this category, and it's something that it's a beautiful thing in a way that it's uplifting the one who is like on the edge of poverty to the point where they won't actually dip into poverty, right? And that's a beautiful thing, in my opinion, to do.
Jazakallah khair. Is zakat payable on amount exceeding nisab or the entire amount? So I imagine nisab is just the benchmark that you have to attain before you're eligible to pay zakat, but that doesn't mean that the nisab amount is excluded. It's
Absolutely.
just a benchmark that if you meet this, then it kicks in for you, and you have to pay zakat based on the calculations that you have to go through.
Yeah.
So hopefully that addresses that. The next question then is, what if you have not paid zakat for previous years? How do you compensate for your prior years?
Excellent question. If you haven't paid zakat because you were following an opinion that says zakat is not due on jewelry, for example, right? Then in that case, you don't have to, like, if you're following an Islamic opinion, or like someone told you, or some, you got a fatwa that you don't have to pay zakat on this investment type, for example, then there's no zakat due on it because you're following a position that's Islamic. Okay. But if you were just a person who didn't just calculate or didn't care enough, then they have to estimate for the years that they have missed, right? And do their best in estimating, and try their best in the manner where they don't like overtax themselves, but also don't undercut the zakat. And after that, pay it as quickly as they can, and ask for forgiveness, and try to not make sure that doesn't happen again. There's a question also I got like on my Facebook page, which was like, how do I schedule the appointment with the advisor? If Brother Ali Radak, you can mention something of that, where they can schedule an appointment with you all.
Great question. So for that, go to ShariaPortfolio.com, or very simple to remember, call 888 Halal Stocks. It's a very simple number that everyone can remember, 888 Halal Stocks. Or you can write into info@ShariaPortfolio.com. That's info@ShariaPortfolio.com. So yeah, those are great ways for us to connect with you, and one of our advisors would be more than happy to get on a phone call with you. There was one question, I just addressed it. Someone was asking if someone has a locked-in pension. I mentioned that as long as if it is locked in, then it's not accessible, then it wouldn't be liable. So I just wanted to iterate that point. I know they're going to continue coming in. So what we can do is hopefully call it a day for today. Inshallah, any other questions that have not been addressed, we will be more than happy to cover in the next session.
Inshallah.
And we really appreciate the discussion and the engagement so far. The question and answer are great. Hopefully it's helping everyone, kind of get a better feel and understanding of this topic. We again appreciate Sheikh Arij Anwar for sharing his knowledge and expertise on this subject. And with that, we pray again for all of you who have attended. And for those who have, who are following us and are from Canada, we also have ShariaPortfolio.ca for those who want to, those who are non-US, residents or citizens that want, international clients or Canadian residents, citizens. We have an entity that is affiliated with us, Sharia Portfolio Canada, and the website is ShariaPortfolio.ca. You can go there, fill out an inquiry form. One of our advisors or portfolio managers there will be more than happy to address any of the questions you have. So I just wanted to throw that in. But inshallah, we appreciate you all for joining in. Please do attend a very important session next Saturday, May 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern time, for another opportunity to get more knowledge on this topic, and also do some more hands-on exercises, inshallah. With that, thank you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.